you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little black subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that black subscribe button. Really does help our audience grow, really does help our channel grow, really does help and mean more than you could possibly know. So go ahead, hit that little black subscribe button. Also, thank you to our presenting sponsor, Betfred Sportsbook and the Betfred Sportsbook app. Bet 50 on any game, get $250 in free bets. Thank you again to Betfred. Thank you again to you. Now, here's the video that you came here for. So let's start with the first one. Let's go to Boulder, Colorado, because I'll tell you this. Last Wednesday, we did kind of the look ahead to the fact that Coach Prime, Deion Sanders, his first spring game at Colorado was this coming Saturday, which obviously now has since passed. And so I bring it up because what I said on last Wednesday's show was pretty straightforward. I said, listen, I understand that this is a results-oriented win-loss business, but the fact remains Coach Prime was hired, I think, the first week of December. And I truly believe that you really could not ask much more from Coach Prime since he took this job about 3.5, 4 months ago. Saturday's spring game was completely sold out. 45,000 people at the spring game on Saturday. By the way, everybody on social media saw the time lapse from last year when they had 1,800 people compared to the 45,000 that they had on Saturday. And as we discussed on Wednesday's show, it wasn't just the spring game. The entire season ticket allotment for next year has been sold out. Oh, by the way, I was reading that they had, Colorado had a record-setting NIL event on Friday night in the lead up to the spring game. Every hotel in a 10-mile radius was completely sold out. So the Coach Prime effect is already taking place at Colorado. And of course, again, I get it. It's a win-loss business. And what I would say as we look ahead to and look back on what happened at the spring game, what I would say is like, I get it, right? He's ultimately going to be judged by wins and losses. I would add, by the way, for everyone who's like, oh, show me what he does on Saturdays. Well, he did go 23-3 in his last 2 years at Jackson State, but I get it. We can appreciate what he's already done while also acknowledging there is a lot of work to be done at a team for a team that was 1-11 last year. But why I bring it up, I want to spend just a few minutes talking about what I saw Saturday, because what I can definitively tell you is this. Two things stood out watching that spring game. One, the show that Coach Prime puts on, it was as good as advertised. But let me also say this. I thought the football was actually a little bit better than I thought it was going to be as well. So let's talk about it. Let's break it down. Let's start with that show, because when I tell you, Coach Prime knows how to put on a production. This man was born to be in front of a camera, okay? So again, we knew 45,000 people were going to be there on Saturday. None of us really knew what it was going to look like, though. It looked like the best party, outside of Vegas and Nashville and New Orleans this weekend, anywhere in the country. To me, watching that game, it didn't even feel like a spring game, right? We've all watched spring games. It's very buttoned up. It's very serious. It's very professional. Georgia, Texas A&M, Alabama, whoever, Clemson. I've watched a lot of spring games in my day. I ain't never seen nothing like that. First of all, it's snowing. It's snowing in April. And they had 45,000 people show up. He brings out that 98-year-old fan to kind of do the opening ceremonies of the thing. But watching the fans, I'll be honest, I had never really seen anything like it. It didn't look like a spring game. And it didn't really look like a fall football game either, right? Like there's a buttoned up approach to spring games. And there's like a seriousness, do or die element of fall football. This, to me, it looked kind of like a music festival in the middle of the snow. Now, I'll be honest, I've never been to a music festival. Said many times, don't knock anybody who's done it. But this Coachella event just went on a few weeks ago here in Los Angeles. I'll tell you this. Can't think of anything I'd rather do less than stand in front of 40,000, 50,000, 100,000 people in the middle of a dirt field in the desert, okay? But that's kind of what I thought I saw with the Colorado spring game. People dancing, people screaming, people celebrating, people mugging for the cameras. It wasn't just about the football. It was about the experience. It was about being there. And this is what Coach Prime does. But at the same time, and I think this is the important part, let me also say, I thought the football was actually much better than I was expecting. Now, this wasn't a full 11-on-11, bring the man to the ground. But I thought the football overall, was better than I was expecting on Saturday. First of all, let me say this. Deion Sanders is a dog, okay? Deion Sanders, I think anybody listening to this would know, he's Deion's son, came with him from Jackson State. This kid, there's no doubt in my mind, he is going to be a very good Power 5 quarterback this year. And that should not be surprising. If you know his background, he was a great high school quarterback. He was recruited by the best of the best, had offers from Alabama, offers from Tennessee, UCLA, committed to Florida Atlantic because there was a path to playing time there, and then obviously flipped when Coach Prime, his father, got the job at Jackson State. But this guy looks the part, man. This guy looks the part. 6'3", well-built, strong, smart. One thing that will not be lacking is wide receiver talent. We're going to get to that in a minute, but poised in the pocket, comfortable, knows when to run, knows when to throw, knows when to get rid of the ball. Had a rushing touchdown, had a couple beautiful passes, had a touchdown pass to Travis Hunter. I'll tell you, this guy looks the freaking part. Again, shouldn't be surprised. 70+% completion percentage last year at Jackson State, 12-1 overall as a starting quarterback. He looked very comfortable in that pocket. Beyond that, the other thing that stood out, I think that offense is going to give some people fits this year. Now, I get it. There's a lot that has to be figured out between now and Labor Day weekend. I'm not sitting here telling you they're going to go 14-0 and beat Georgia in the playoff. That's not going to happen. I get that. But if you watch the game, you know what I saw? Well coached, well organized. Shedeur is a dog at quarterback. But then also the ski, like it's a very smart thing that's going on at Colorado. And it's interesting because I think everybody in the media, and I include myself in this, we all focused on the Coach Prime, the antics, the excitement, and even some of the recruiting. Bringing Deion Sanders, bringing Travis Hunter, the former 5-star, getting Cormani McClain, the other 5-star, to commit. One thing that I do think got lost in all of everything that Coach Prime did when he got to Colorado, he made a really smart hire at the offensive coordinator position. His offensive coordinator is a guy named Sean Lewis. Sean Lewis was actually the head coach at Kent State, was a name that got floated around for a number of different jobs as head coaching jobs at the Power 5 level, doesn't get one, and Coach Prime convinces him to come to be the offensive coordinator. Well, this guy runs an up-tempo scheme that has pretty much given everybody fits, okay? Kent State, believe it or not, scored 22 points against Georgia last year when they played him. Kent State outscored, like Kent State put up more points last year, and Kent State, again, their head coach is now the offensive coordinator at Colorado. Kent State against Georgia scored more points than Tennessee did. Remember them? Tennessee, Josh Heupel, Hendon Hooker. More points than Oregon, more points than Kentucky, more points than TCU in the national championship game. So they're going to run an up-tempo offense with a very smart quarterback. And in that elevation of Colorado, I think they're going to be able to wear down defenses and put up points. Now, we're going to talk about some of the deficiencies in a second, but that offense looked really sharp. Lastly, I would also say, skill position is not going to be a problem. Now, offensive line, defense, we're going to discuss. That might be where the concerns come in. But wide receiver and running back, they're set. First off, Travis Hunter. This was the kid, remember, number 1 player in America 2 years ago, commits to Coach Prime at at Jackson State, goes there for a year. And the reason he committed to Coach Prime was a number of different reasons. But one, Coach Prime promised him, we're going to give you the opportunity to play both ways. Well, he played both ways on Saturday. Looked like the best wide receiver on the field. Now, as a cornerback, he actually got burned for a touchdown by a walk-on, which was the talk of the game itself. And I think it was more of a ribbing than it was like a serious, this is a concern type thing. But I just bring it up because he was the best athlete on the field by a mile. A couple other newer guys to the program looked really good. Dylan Edwards, a 4-star freshman, really looked pretty good in limited touches. The kid Montana Lamonius Craig, that was RG3's favorite guy at this game, looked really good at wide receiver. He was the one, if you saw the highlights, he had the deep touchdown catch from Shedeur. So I just bring it up to say, I believe everybody was excited about the show on Saturday. A lot of people had some questions about the football, though. And I'm here to tell you the football looked better than I think I personally expected. Now, I would add, and I do think this is important, and it's worth noting, there's still major holes. This is still a team that went 1-11. And again, I'm not here to tell you go to Vegas and bet everything on Colorado to hit the over in their win total, to make the college football playoff, to win the Pac-12. I'm not saying any of that, because at the end of the day, there's a lot of work to be done on this roster. Offensive line needs work. Defense definitely needs work. Coach Prime was very vocal at that spring game. He said he believes 8 of their potential starters are not yet on campus. A couple of them are either coming in the fall already, whether it's through the recruiting class, through the transfer portal class, or he's got to go find them in the portal this spring. So I'm not here to say they're doing anything special. And I would add, that schedule is really, really, really tough. How about this for an opening schedule? They open at TCU. Remember, not sure if you watched college football playoff last year. TCU was the national runner-up. Now, they lost a lot, Max Duggan, etc., but they're still going to be tough. Then you play Nebraska week 2 at home, Colorado State. How about this? You open Pac-12 play at Oregon, USC at home. So before October 1, at TCU, Nebraska at home, at Oregon, USC at home. That is a tough start, and it is going to be a challenge. But I'm telling you, I was very impressed by this group, and I was very impressed by how Colorado looked in their debut on national TV on Saturday.